warm welcome to all of you who came to our conference, our speakers, panelists, and all our guests. Those of you who are here with us in person, but also with all the people who have registered and are participating online. We have actually over 230 people who have registered, and I hope most of them will be listening to our conference online. My name is Iga Magda. I'm the Vice President of the Board at IBS Warsaw. It's a research institute for research, for structural research based in Warsaw. And we were the leaders of the project within which this conference is taking place. The project was entitled, it's a long title, Youth Employment Partnership Evaluation Studies in Spain, Hungary, Italy, and Poland. Basically, it was a 4-year-long research project that aimed at evaluating youth employment policies in Europe, at looking at outreach of young people with employment support. And the project was carried out by institutions from 4 European countries, Poland, Italy, Spain, and Hungary. So with the participation of the Budapest Institute for Policy Analysis in Hungary, Collegio Carlo Alberto, and the INAP Institute in Italy, and also the University of the Basque Country and the FEDEA Institute in Spain. We also had the support of 3 great expertise partners, which were the World Bank, Norwegian School of Economics, and JPAL Europe. And the representatives of those institutions are also with us here or will join online. So basically, as I mentioned, the aim of the project was to create new knowledge on new evidence on youth employment policies in European countries, the 4 European countries which are very different in terms of youth labor market position in Europe. And today we would like to share this knowledge we gained, we created with you, and to discuss mainly focusing on policy implications of that research. And also we have many practitioners people who are in practice with youth employment policies with us. So I really hope that we'll be able to share and learn a lot today from each other. So basically we'll start our session with opening speech by Dr. Max Übe from the European Commission. Unfortunately, he could not come in person, but he will be joining us online soon. And then we'll have 3 sessions. The first one will be on the evidence on what works for young people, what seems not to be working. The second one will be on outreach with youth policies to young people across Europe. And the third one will be on the gender dimension of youth employment policies. Each session will be introduced with a short presentation of our findings, and then we'll have panel discussions to really bring research and policy making closer together. I would like to acknowledge also the venue where we are here in. Really great support of the Business and Science Center Poland, and thank you for the hospitality here. And last but not least, I would like to acknowledge the funding for this project. So we benefited from a grant from the so-called Iceland, Liechtenstein, and Norway program through the European Economic Area and Norway Grants Fund for Youth Employment. So basically, the fund supports different initiatives that aim at improving labor market position of young people in European countries, and we were really happy we could participate in this initiative. Unfortunately, the fund's representative could not be with us here today, but we have a short video, and I hope we could have it now. Okay.
I'm Essen, and I work at the Secretariat for the EA and Norway Grants as a sector officer on global cooperation and inclusive and decent work. It is a pleasure to greet you today, although in a digital format, on this conference discussing one of the most pressing topics of our time: how can we best empower unemployed youth to reach their full potential? This topic is not only at the core of the EEA and Norway grants, it is also a topic that is close to my own heart. Having a professional background from justice and equality and being born and raised in the donor country Norway while also being half Hungarian, I know that the challenges we are facing in Europe truly are shared both within and across borders, youth unemployment being one of them. On behalf of the donors of the grants, Norway, Iceland, and Liechtenstein, we in the Secretariat work for a more equal Europe, in close partnership with bilateral and transnational actors. And we are proud supporters of the Youth Employment Partnership Project. With partners from 7 countries, the project that has gathered us today is truly an initiative that works to find common solutions to shared challenges. Because, despite much progress in Europe, gaps in social and economic development persist. The lack of sustainable quality jobs for youth, social exclusion, and discrimination are among the threats we are facing. And we know that some subgroups of youth are more at risk of being excluded than others. Girls and women, migrants, LGBTI people, people with a Roma background, and people with disabilities are among the groups that are especially vulnerable to exclusion from the labor market. Moreover, the COVID-19 pandemic has taken a serious toll on the employment possibilities for Europe's youth. And Russia's aggression in Ukraine has forced many young people to fight for freedom. And millions of people have had to leave their lives behind and flee to safety. Many of them young women, often with children. In this very challenging context, we need to be conscious of the value chain of knowledge when we build and rebuild our societies. From what knowledge bases politicians use in decision making, to what types of data that are gathered during the implementation of initiatives, and finally to how these initiatives are evaluated in the end. It means that efforts with a goal to develop our societies need to be researched and evaluated in a way that makes it possible to learn about what works and what doesn't. Evaluating our efforts is not simply a box to tick off. It is a tool for learning. The Youth Employment Partnership Project is an excellent example in this regard, because not knowing how we best can unlock the potential of our youth is a losing game, not only for the individual youth itself, but for our entire societies. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you a fruitful conference.
Thank you very much, Nora. So now I would like to move to the opening speech. I hope Dr. Übe is with us on the Zoom. Yes? So in the meantime...
Yes, I can hear and see you. I don't know if you can hear and see me.
Oh, yes, there you are. Thank you very much. So just a brief introduction. So Dr. Max Übe has been the head of Unit Employment Strategy in the European Commission's DG for Employment, Social Affairs and Inclusion since November 2015. Prior to that, he was heading the unit responsible for sectoral employment challenges, the European Globalization Adjustment Fund, youth employment and entrepreneurship. He holds a law degree from the Freie University Berlin, a master degree from UCL, and a PhD from the University of Rostock. Without further ado, Dr. Übe, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and also thanks for the invitation. I'm really sorry that I can't be with you this morning. Now that it is possible again to meet in person, but I had meetings until now, and another one actually starting in 20 minutes. So I had a few constraints. I will give you some context, a few figures as well, and then speak about the EU initiatives on youth, and also a bit on financial support from the EU level. So let me start with the political and economic context. As we all know, we are living through a very volatile period. At the moment, the COVID pandemic, of course, caused this major economic crisis and left really long-standing wounds, and had quite an impact on society and citizens across Europe. unemployment rates jumped during the pandemic. And the most important for your event here today is, of course, that young people in general paid a much higher price than other age groups. So during the lockdown, many young people were dismissed, they lost their jobs, or they could not even enter the labor market or continue their education and training courses. Youth unemployment jumped from close to 16% in March 2020 to close to 20% in only a few months' time. Young people are also much more exposed to long-term negative effects of the lockdowns. If you think of mental health issues, the loneliness that many young people in particular have been suffering from. So such a crisis, of course, also calls for a response at the European level, and we believe the EU has reacted forcefully, decisively, and swiftly, or at least faster than during the previous financial crisis. There's unprecedented financial support under the Recovery and Resilience Facility that can help to mitigate some of the worst social and labor market impacts of this crisis. And we have also seen that after the quick increase that I already mentioned, the most recent youth unemployment figures are much better. So we are back to pre-pandemic levels, and in the last months we have even seen lowest levels ever recorded with around 14%. But now that the pandemic is, I don't want to say over, but at least the labor markets have recovered. There are the next dark clouds on the sky over Europe, and the war in Ukraine has been mentioned already. The economic repercussions are not fully known yet, but of course there is a risk that there will be disruptions, and we see already a worrying in inflation in most European, or in all European countries. The challenges for young people entering the labor market go, of course, beyond the impact of economic crises. So even in the absence of economic shocks, the youth unemployment in Europe has typically remained twice as high as the general unemployment rate, so the rate for adults. And we've always seen, and they remain, the large differences between EU member states. So this clearly indicates that there are important structural challenges and barriers that should be addressed if we want to improve the prospects of young people in Europe. And these challenges are multiple and cover a number of policy fields. Some challenges may relate to legislation, including employment protection legislation, where young people are often in a disadvantaged situation. Others relate to skills and competencies, to ineffective school, to work transitions, etc. Our efforts to promote youth employment will only be effective if we are able to see and address these challenges in an ideally holistic perspective that has been a guiding principle for us. It is clear that an essential requirement for integrating young people in the labor market is the existence of an effective and adequate labor market support system that would cover effective activation measures complemented by adequate social services, as well as relevant up and reskilling offers. And here we see quite a lot of room for improvements across the EU. There are today a few member states with sufficient institutional capacities to provide this support, adequate support for young job seekers in the European Union. And this is why research projects like yours, like the Youth Employment Partnership, are so important. And hopefully the discussions today will shed more lights on how young people can be supported more effectively on the labor market. Let me now say a few words about EU-level initiatives. Young people remain central on the agenda of the Commission, actually, over the last 10, 15 years. You all know that this year, 2022, has become the European Year of Youth, and it is dedicated to empowering the young people and to set a legacy for future generations also beyond 2022. And this year is co-created with young people themselves. They also played an important role in the Conference on the Future of Europe, and labor market transitions are at the central stage of the Commission's agenda on the digital economy, as well as the Green Deal. To become a bit more concrete, in reaction to the recession triggered by the pandemic, already in 2020, the Commission launched the so-called Youth Employment Initiative with 4 components, and the reinforced youth guarantee for people aged now up to 29 years at the center. And with this, we want to achieve or improve school to work transitions through a more tailored support, so to accompany young people after they have started a new job, and maybe the link to the integrated services, to the holistic approach, the integrated services. I have the message that my internet is weak. You tell me if you can't hear me anymore.
It's working now. It's okay.
It's working now again. Okay. Still on the youth guarantee, we don't only want people or countries to react, but also to prevent young people from becoming unemployed or inactive in the first place. And an overall objective is, of course, so important: practical experience, work experience, and developing the right skills in this changing world of work. These commitments that member states have taken under the reinforced youth guarantee, they are now can be financially supported with billions of euros from the EU funds. I mentioned the recovery and resilience facility that is supposed to be an important tool to address structural problems that also young people face. It has a budget of over 700 billion euro for all member states. And the Commission has urged member states to invest at least 22 billion to support youth unemployment. To support youth employment, of course. The measures included in the plans, the recovery and resilience plans that member states adopted and submitted, also cover a number of areas, from strengthening vet systems over specialized training or guidance targeting young needs. We've seen apprenticeship programs, improving the support of public employment services to young people, but also hiring subsidies and integrated one-stop shop services for young people. So a wide range of measures. In addition, there is, of course, also the more traditional European Social Fund, now called ESF Plus, with a budget of 99 billion euro for the current programming period, 21-27, and this remains a key instrument to support the implementation of the reinforced youth guarantee. This remains our flagship, but we have a number of also complementary EU initiatives that I would like to briefly mention. As part of the Youth Employment Support Initiative, the European Alliance for Apprenticeship has been renewed, that aims to increase the supply and the quality of apprenticeships by, for example, promoting national coalitions, supporting also the smaller enterprises, reinforcing the involvement of social partners, and supporting the representation of apprentices in the member states. The Commission has been very active in the skills agenda over the last years and launched an ambitious European skills agenda for up and skilling, including for young people, with the focus, I would say, on the more and more important digital skills. Last December, the Commission published, and actually our unit is leading on that, has developed, designed a proposal for a directive on improving working conditions in platform work. And I mention that here because young people very often use the opportunities that digital labor platforms offer, for example, to combine studies or with the start of their professional careers. And with this proposal, we want to make sure that the working conditions in this type of work are fair as regards working conditions, but also social protection. And last but not least, I'd like to mention an initiative that our president has announced in her State of the Union speech last September. The initiative is called ALMA, Aim, Learn, Master, and Achieve. And this is a cross-border mobility scheme for the most disadvantaged young people aged 18 to 30 that are not employment training or education, so-called needs. And the objective is to improve their chances of accessing work or training in another country. So I hope I could reassure you that youth employment remains a priority for this Commission, for Commissioner Schmidt and the President. Of course, not only at the EU level. I was yesterday in Paris at the OECD Ministerial, and one of the four main topics that ministers from all over the world discussed was also youth and youth employment and how to support young people, because I think everybody agrees that investing in young people is the best way forward to build a more resilient and inclusive society and a prosperous and socially just and fair European Union. With that, I close, and I wish you a very fruitful conference. Again, apologies for not being in person with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this nice introduction and for setting the scene. And now I would like to move on to the first session, entitled Which Policies Work for Youth?